and welcome to That's What Speaks. Today is, oh my goodness, it's the 13th of July, and this is episode 300 and something. I'm Amy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry, and the Fat SQRRL on Instagram. Thanks for coming over early in the morning. Well, not early, it's like 10, but early for visiting, right? It's early for visiting. I picked you some flowers out of the yard. Well, I cut you some flowers out of the yard. This is my very first dahlia. I let her stay out there for quite a while. She actually bloomed like right around my birthday, so it's been a few weeks. And so she's starting to fade out a little bit on the edges, but this is the very first one. And of course, zinnias, because hello. I'm really so excited. I bought, quite frankly, an obscene amount of dahlias. It's not true, but they were pricey. Where did I buy them from? From Edmund? I want to say Edmund and Sons, but is that an actual place? See, you know, I try to prepare for you, and then I just immediately go off topic. But they were a little expensive, and so I bought them, and then I also bought like some from like Miracle Grow that were like at the hardware store or whatever. And there's a difference, y'all. Eden Brothers. Okay, I wasn't that far off. There's a definite difference, y'all. The ones I got from the hardware store, I want to say there were like, I can't remember if there were 4 or 5 bulbs, but they were like super desiccated. Like I planted the ones from Eden Brothers first, and they were like juicy and like huge, by the way. Like each bulb was like had like all of these, they were very meaty. So I had 9 of those, 10 of those, because I have 3x3 in one little 4x4 bed. Like I have 9 bulbs in a 4x4 bed, and then I had like 1 extra. And so they all came up. This was the first one that's bloomed, but several of them have blooms on them. But the Miracle Grow, only one of the either 4 or 5, I can't remember, came up, and it does not have blooms yet. So just, you know, they were expensive. But, like, I think the ones that I got from Eden Brothers would be fine to split this year. Like, you know, after this winter is, like, you know, after this growing season's over. I don't know a lot. I have to research more. But as like humongo as they were, I would not be surprised. Don't you wish you were my real neighbor? And while we're on the subject, okay, did you see my birthday mug from my mama? It's like green. There's a fish. I love this guy. He's yellow. And there's this like little bird for your thumb rest. But while we're on the topic of gardening, this episode will contain shenanigans. It will contain knitting and spinning and sewing and shop updating. Okay, let's get into it. So this year I've not done any vegetables. I was really planning on doing winter squash. I even got the beds pulled out, like cleaned out to do them in. Then I just like didn't. Fail. But my hydrangea is doing well. Maeve is doing well. She's a little bit like peakish. I'm almost wondering if maybe she's getting, she can't be getting too much sun. This is exactly the same exposure as the ones at the library get, so it has to be okay. But she's like, I noticed that like I tried to feed her, and if I got a little bit of the feed on her leaves, she did not like that. So, but some of her leaves are kind of brown, but we've had a really long dry spell, so I probably should be watering her more than I am. But like our little wildflower garden just like went crazy this last few weeks, and we have like cosmos and like a bunch of stuff I don't know the name of, but it's all like weedy and pretty, and like when the wind blows, it just is all like, and then, as I said, the zinnias are doing really well. They're not nearly as tall as I had them when they were in that bed that was like, the first time I had the zinnias, they were in a wildflower mix. Are they wild? Whatever. And I don't know if it's because they were competing with the other like taller wildflowers, but they got super tall. I mean, like at least 4 feet. These gals are not nearly that tall, but they are not competing with tall things either. So it may just be that situation. I don't know. But they're doing well. As I said, the dahlias, the plants look really good. This is my first actual flower. There's a couple of buds that look like they're about to go. I planted lettuce. I have the worst luck with lettuce. I'm sure it's because I don't keep it moist enough, like as it's germinating. I'm sure that's what my problem is. I imagine that's what my problem is. One year I did it, I had great luck. So I think that must be it. Like, it must have just been a rainy year. I have like one little like loose leaf lettuce that's just like, hey, I don't know where everybody is. I just showed up to the party and I don't see anybody else. Like, she's just out there by herself. And so I don't even have the heart to eat her, because I guess I should like make use of her energies. And then we have some like some butterfly bush that's growing. And no, it's not butterfly bush, but it looks like it. It's like butterfly weed or something. I don't know. It was in like the native plant sale or whatever. And then some milkweed that's like gotten real tall and pretty. So even though our raspberries look surprisingly like they're going to do something, even though I swear at the beginning of the year there was like 3 branches. So did I say raspberries? Blackberries is what I meant. I'm not entirely sure that they'll do anything. They have tons of berries on them though. So I'm like, how did this, there were literally like 3 vines, because they only bear fruit every other year. And so you're supposed to trim back the ones that have borne their fruit, because they're not going to do anything except use up resources. Sounds so like brutal of me, so capitalistic. But anyway, but the ones that are there are doing really, I was like, what? Where are these blackberries coming from? So yeah, so even though the 3 empty beds are shaming me, our groundhogs are back. We have 2 groundhogs this year. I know I should not be excited about groundhogs, but because they're quite destructive and they do eat your vegetables. But luckily all I have this year are some like cabbages that I planted too late. So I'm like, have at them, groundhogs. Enjoy your cabbage buffet. And so, they drive Gus crazy. Like we have the type of, their original windows to the house, and they open like this. So he's sitting, I'm looking at him right now. In the back of the house, there's like a window that looks out onto the yard. It's just a window, not like a French door or anything. So he sits on the like little table that's in front of the window and then just bangs his paws against. And because they're older windows, they're not perfectly like meatily flush in there. So it does like totally shake the whole door. I'm like, yeah, Gus, there are groundhog. There's always a groundhog out there. Like every other minute, there's a groundhog. But the other day I did say the second one, and it was a little bit smaller. So I don't know if it's like a male and a female, or if it's a male and an adolescent, or like whatever, a grown up and an adolescent. But it was very exciting. Now there's a robin out there looking for worms. Anyway, welcome. You got like early morning flowers. They're still looking good and crunchy. Yay. Looking good. Look at me looking good. That was a really bad segue. But I just wanted to like touch base with you again. I talked a few weeks about a cream that was recommended by the esthetician who did my facial. And it was called, I did look this up before we talked, unlike the Eden Brothers. It was from The Ordinary, which is a company that sells like all sorts of skincare things. And it's azelaic, azelaic, azelaic acid suspension 10%. 100 mils, which is a pretty good sized container, is $25. I know that's not cheap, but like as skincare goes, it is cheap. Ugh. And I think it's actually working, because today when I sat down to record with you for you, I actually went into the other room and put some color on my cheeks, because So I'm just saying that maybe it's actually working. I don't know, but I think it is. So that was just a touching base with you again on that product. We talked about it a little bit, but further info. I own like no makeup. We went to a wedding a few weeks ago and like I thought, oh, I should put on some makeup. And then I was like, oh, I don't have any makeup. But I do, because of the grocery girls, those stinkers. I do have from Jones Road, they make this like, kind of like, I don't know what it is, but it's like some like a glittery kind of color suspension that you can use for your cheeks, or you can use it, like my neck is always, like you can see, my neck is always way paler than the rest of me. And so they can kind of help to like kind of color up your, like just kind of even out a little bit. Okay, so footnote, I know somebody will ask, so the thing I was talking about is Jones Road Miracle Balm in the Magic Hour colorway. So yeah, if you're interested, you can find out more about it on their website. And so I was like, oh, I'll use, and then I was like, I didn't even remember that. So just, I'm always a fail at those things. But today I did put on the glitters for y'all. Okay. So that's that. What else? Okay. Oh, since we're talking about things we talked about before, let's talk about this. So last time I showed you my sun hat that I had made. So this is the Serpentine hat pattern. It's by ELBE Textiles out of Perth, Australia. I purchased a digital copy on Etsy and it was $3.53. It takes half a yard of fabric for the exterior and half a yard for the interior. Last time I talked about how, that the brim was just, this is heavier than like a quilter's cotton, this exterior, but it's not like a cotton canvas or anything. So were lots of awesome comments about the hat last time in terms of like suggestions and things. Suggestions on like, oh, well, maybe you could make the crown out of like a lighter weight fabric so that it's not as hot, but you could have the brim be stiffer and make it with the heavier, or even just do the lining in those lighter fabrics so that, you know, like the crown lining in a lighter fabric so that you don't have like weird contrast or anything. Like you could make the exterior one like a linen cotton canvas, right? Make this the linen cotton canvas, but then make this like a lighter weight fabric, even like a mesh or something. Somebody mentioned that they watched somebody do a sew along and they did put a wire in the brim to give it more volume or give it more body to like stiffen it up a little bit. What else? There were several good comments, but the one that stuck with me was that somebody suggested using liquid starch, like not spray starch. I don't know why not spray starch, but she said specifically that what she does with her sun hats is she gets liquid laundry starch and then she just kind of paints on like the edges, probably why not the spray, so that you have more control. And then you could also control like the dent, like how starchy you wanted it. Well, I did not have, I didn't have laundry starch, but I did have something that's probably very similar. I had like a craft starch that you use to starch, like crocheted snowflakes and stuff for ornaments and things. It's called like quick stiff, spray stiff, instant stiff, stiff and quick. That's what it's called. It's called Eileen Stiff and Quick, and they make it in a liquid so that you can like just soak your things, but they also make it in a spray. And for me, the spray is just what I happen to have. And so I did just try to spray it like kind of like on this outer half. And, oopsie. And instantly, okay, it totally worked yesterday. Okay, it's just because I have my hat tilted down. But so it did help stiffen it up. And I just did one coat because I wasn't sure. So I'm totally going to do another one, but it did help quite a bit. Despite my initial failure. You do have to kind of be careful with it because this hat does not like lay. That's what it is when I originally did it, I put it on top of, because this hat, the brim doesn't lay perfectly flat like when you lay it down. So I put it on like my container of laundry detergent and sprayed it this way. which did like create specific folds. And so I didn't like manage those folds. Wow, there's a weird lighting change that just happened. Did you notice? We'll see if it happens in post-production. And so I didn't manage those folds specifically. So when I put it on, I did have that initial like whoops, because this was originally like I was like, oh shoot. But the other side is okay. But what I did is I went ahead and ironed it. I thought that had taken care of it, but apparently it had not. It retained its memory. So I just probably going to do another layer of the starch, but just try to keep the brim as flat as I can. Or again, like put more starch just like right here if I want to, or like just starch this panel. And it does not show up at all. It doesn't discolor it in any way. It still has a nice texture to it. It doesn't feel like it's coated in anything. And I don't know what it would do in the rain. It might do something weird in the rain, but I would not wear this hat intentionally wear it in the rain. And it certainly wouldn't like damage it. Like it just might look weird while it's wet. And then I might just need to launder it out. But so I just wanted to share those tips with you in case you also were interested in making a serpentine hat. Because y'all are the best. So I appreciate your comments. I do always read all of them. Sometimes I just don't have good things to say because I'm like, well, look at you being so smart. Good on ya. But I do appreciate them. Just like I appreciate the support of the patrons of the podcast. Oh my goodness, they make all this nonsense possible. So just everybody send a big old thank you out to them. Bam. They're super appreciated. Okay, what else? So since we're recapping from last time, just a reminder, I have bags that are going up for pre-sale on July 15th, Fat Squirrel Fibers, 9 p.m. Eastern. It is a pre-order. So what happens is I get the orders, I make the order for the fabric, they print the fabric, they send it to me, I make your bags. So it does take a while. It's like usually a 4 to 6 week window depending on the quantity of orders or the number of orders I get. I will put big quantities out there for myself just because I do have, like, after we get back from SSK and I do a little camping trip, spoiler alert, I do have a little window where I can get some good work done. But it is still a limited number of pre-orders simply because I am just one human. So those are going up on the 15th. I will also have, in addition to these, I had several requests for angry uterus bags. And even though I am no longer an owner of a uterus, I did go ahead and order some fabric. So there will be angry uterus fabric bags as well for pre-order. Again, July 15th, fatsquirrelfibers.com, 9 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so then let's shenanigan. Kind of did shenanigans of the garden. Let's do shenanigans. Okay, two things. Okay, I'll do the first. Okay, I'll do this order. Okay. So I told you last time that I was thinking of backpacking, but I don't think I had decided that we were going backpacking. And by we, I mean me and my teenager. My husband has no interest in backpacking. He carries a backpack. Like sometimes when we go to the library, I'm like, can you carry this backpack with the books in it? And he's like halfway there, he's like, he's not meant to carry additional weight. Like he's just not meant for it. His body is like, no. I like my body, which is like, yes, we love additional weight. And I'm like, body, really? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's what we're going with. So I am the carrier of heavy things, and he is the mover of fastness. That is our duo-ness. That is our Wonder Twin power activation. So he will not be backpacking. But the teen and I are potentially going to go backpacking after I get back from SSK. We have a few days before school starts. And so we're going to try to do a quick trip. We'll see how it goes. It is the place we're going. I don't want to mention it just because of like internet and safety issues. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. I'll definitely tell you afterwards, though, about it. But it is kind of weather dependent, so we might. We'll see how it goes. I don't relish, like, we have lots of places that we could go around here as, like, backups, but I don't relish the idea of necessarily backpacking in 95-degree heat. We'll see. We'll see. And neither does my teen. Like, my teen is way more sensitive to heat than I am, so I don't think that would go well for either of us. We may be, like, backpacking in the basement or something. I don't know. To, like, delay a little bit, which would be fine, but we'll see. But one of the things that has been kind of, I think the reason, we actually, the teen and I talked about it. Like, the teen says that the reason they think they became interested in backpacking is that they loved, what's the Bear Grylls TV show? Where he, like, goes out and, like, drinks water from elephant poop. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what that They think that's where their like fantasy of backpacking came from. I think mine came from when I was younger. My grandpa was a fisherman. Like, now, when my mom was younger, they went camping and they went, like, water skiing on the Ohio River, and he did hunting. But by the time I was around, he was a fisherman. Like, that was his jam. We never did, like, family hikes or anything like that. Like, that was just not, I mean, my mom and I would go to nature center sometimes, but like the family tradition was was fishing, which is fine. I'm not a huge, I love the water. I don't have a real big need to go fishing, though. I'll put timestamps in, y'all. We did what's called trolling, which means that you, like, he had like a 16-foot boat. Like, it wasn't like a jump. It was like an actual boat, but it wasn't like a bass boat. It was just like a very, like, middle of the road boat. And by the way, I have to tell you this. His boat and his truck always had to match. Like, when I was really little, the first truck I remember had, and it would have a cap on it because, again, you would need to, like, we would go to Middle Bass Island, and then when I was little, the only thing on the island was right at the ferry dock, there was like a little general store, and I mean little. Like, it was like the size of my living room, and I live in a 1920s house. Like, it was little. You could get milk and, like, bread, and I think they would have, like, they would sometimes have, like, frozen treats, because we would get, like, a Klondike bar or something. Later on, and then that's where the payphone was. You had to go to the payphone. Yes, young ones. Not only were there no cell phones, but there was only one payphone on the entire island. It's not a huge island, but it's it's big enough. There was a winery on it. Like, come on. Which my grandparents did not approve of. We are teetotalers, our family. The winery actually sold pizza. Like, they would have pizza that you could go get. I only remember having that pizza. I went every summer until I was in, like, I don't think I went through high school, but I went every other, like, I don't think I went every year in high school. I only remember having that pizza once, because my grandparents did not even want to go pick up the pizza because there was lots of drunkenness. Because it is like that, the South Bass Island and the Middle Bass Island, there is, like, South Bass Island especially is like a party island. Like, I'm not a partier. I'm not a teetotaler either. But you know what I mean? Like, that does not appeal to me. And so I could totally see how they would have been like, but I do think it's kind of charming. Like, my poor little mama, every meal was cooking, and there was pizza just, like, half a mile away. But of course, you could not order it and then, like, go pick it up. You had to, like, order it, like, you had to go there, order it, and wait for it, and then leave. So, like, in their defense, I probably wouldn't want to do that either. Not because of drunkenness, but just because of humanness. And like, I don't think I do vaguely feel like I once went into the gift shop at the Lawns Winery, but like I never took a tour. They were there to fish. Well, Papa was there to fish. Memo was just there. Poor Memo. Oh, she would get so sunburned because I think I can tell you. I think it's okay. I think she would be all right with it. She never colored her hair. My grandmother never colored her hair. She never got gray hair. But in the summer, she would try not to wear her hat sometimes because she wanted it to like bleach her hair out a little bit. Give her like highlights. But anyway, so she would always be so sunburned, and like Papa didn't love us to like he wanted me to put sunblock on because I would get sunburned so badly. But like there was this whole rigmarole you had to go through after you put sunblock on or after you reapplied, because if you touched the fish baits, because we used like plasticky fish bait, not like live bait. If you touch the fish bait with your sunblock hands, the fish can smell it. And I don't know if that's true. I'm sure it is true. But because I don't know if it's true. Don't even tell me if it's not true. He didn't have the internet, okay? So he was just going off of like experience and like logic. Yeah, I would think, yeah, okay. They can smell stuff because like, yeah, okay, yeah. So where was this even going? We were always sunburned. I don't know. But yeah, poor Mel, but she was just always sunburned and like cleaning fish and fishing and cleaning fish, and then like not only did you have to fillet the fish and do that part, but then you had to like let them sit in the refrigerator in water, and then like they have this like dark streak in them. I guess it's a vein, I don't know, in the fillet, and you had to like go out and then take that out, and then you had to like package them in Ziploc bags and freeze them. And this is like, by the way, in the olden times, I don't know if y'all remember, but in the olden times, colored pencils and Ziploc bags were very expensive. Okay, I don't know. Cereal also very expensive. I don't know what is happening. I know that things are getting more expensive again, but like, do you recall, or was it just like my childhood perspective that they seem so expensive? But it felt like colored pencils and Ziploc bags were money. I mean, serious money. So all this work, right? And there was just like pizza. This started because I was talking about the boats. I was talking about his boat and his truck always had to match. So the first truck I remember, I actually don't really remember. Like I have like a vague memory. He worked for Ford, so they were always Ford trucks. But it had like, do you remember in the 70s and the 80s, like the truck cabs had like those bubble windows? I don't know why that was a trend, but it was. And they were like that orangey amber color. So when I would ride to Lake Erie, like all the light that came in, because we would leave at like 4 a.m. to get on the 8 a.m. ferry. Again, serious business. The light that would come in would always be this orangey color, and it was very lovely. But then later on, he got a new boat and a new truck. I'm sure he got a new truck and then a new boat, but whatever. Then they matched it, and they were like gray and burgundy. There were no bubble windows, but they did have like the louver windows in them. In the truck cab, there was like louver windows. Backpacking. I told you I would put timestamps in. See, if you were here, you could be like, backpacking. I'd be like, oh, that's right, I'm sorry. But when I was growing up, like there were always Cabela's catalogs and what's the Bass Pro catalogs in the magazine rack, which is one thing I took from the house. There were always those. There was nothing ever really else to read. My mama read a lot, but she read like nonfiction, which was not interesting to me as a kid. So I just looked at the Bass Pro and the Cabela's catalogs like religiously. Like, let me just tell you, I knew so much about dehydrators and making jerky. Had I ever eaten jerky? No. Have I still maybe never eaten jerky? I don't think I've ever eaten jerky. I could be wrong. I don't remember. But like, I think that's where mine came from, because there's like all this gear, and it was like, and again, like, it's not just that. It's obviously also like my own like little spectrum brain that likes to really like plan things and like might put things and organize the things and then think about the things and plan all the things and then like all the possibilities and all the, it's like all of that like working together. But that's where I came from. But then that was all to say. We're going backpacking. But one of the things I've been really afraid about, well, I mean, afraid is maybe a strong word. But one of the things that's been churning a lot in my brain, I'm sorry, I don't know what is going on with that motor sound. I don't know what car is happening. Is there a drag race in my alley? Perhaps. I'm not sure. One of the things I've been really concerned about is buying a backpack, like buying an actual, like, big backpack for backpacking. That's a lot of backpack. I'm going to start singing Dora any second. But, because like now I did find out there are plus size backpacks. What? I didn't even know. Gregory makes plus size backpacks. I didn't find out till after I went backpack shopping, but it just FYI. And they say that they are geared for, I want to say 2 to 6X is what I want to say, but you can find information on their website. But I did finally pluck up the courage. I looked and looked and looked online and like tried to find like best suggestions. One of the problems is I think I'll eventually break this information out into different episodes so that they are searchable for fat folks. But just like we're just talking, so let's just talk. Help me work out my thoughts, okay? Thanks. I appreciate you. One of the problems with looking for information about backpacking in a fat body is that, or like any like special like thing you're doing, right? Like whatever it is, like very narrow normal windowedness, is like there are like 9,000 names for being fat. Like and like some people are really afraid of the word fat. So like fat backpacking and plus size backpacking and big person backpacking and big backpacking, and like there's like all these kind of like things you gotta try to Google around. And then within that subset, like plus size is everything from like size US 12. I don't know what that bust circumference was to try to help to translate, and then I would only know it in English anyway. But like people think, or not people, it is generally a thing that plus size is anything from like somebody who is what I call Indiana thin, and in fact is the average sized woman. Actually 14 I think is the average size woman. But anyway, like it ranges from that up to folks who are 500, 600, 700 pounds. So like that range is way bigger than like the normal range. And so when I look for plus size backpacking, sometimes it's like a person who is a size 16, and I'm like, that experience is very different than mine. Just like if I were to put a video out, my experience would be very different than a person living in a 500 pound body. So like, like it's surprisingly difficult to find information even in this age of information. That's what I'm using a lot of words to say. Thank you. You're knitting, you're fine. You're spinning, you're fine. It's tortoise, please. So, I was looking at backpacks and looking at measurements, and like lots of companies like REI or Backcountry or other places, or even like the actual backpack companies, they will include like a hip measurement. And so I thought that would be like the maximum hip measurement. And I thought, well, I mean, I do know how to sew, and like, I guess I can just figure out how to extend that hip belt. Because the hip belt, if you've never seen like a backpacker's backpack, the hip belt is like it is structured. It's not just like a piece of nylon or anything. It is like a structured belt, and it helps to distribute the weight of the backpack. So it's not just on your shoulders. It's actually resting on your hips. And so, yes, the size of that hip belt makes a difference in that the extension pieces that come around on a smaller belt will be smaller proportionately. Otherwise, like a woman who has a 30-inch waist, like if she put on my backpack, The hip belt will probably like close over her stomach, which would be very uncomfortable. She would not be able to bend comfortably or anything like that. The same thing happens if I put on her backpack, even if like the shoulders and everything else fit. If that hip belt, like if that support system is like much shorter, it may not come around my waist even. Like it may actually just like not even, it may just do nothing essentially. Like it may help the backpack from swaying, but it's not going to give it any support. So I was concerned that I would be in that position, like, right? Like that, okay, yes, I can make the belt longer by creating an extension, but will it actually functionally work for me, even though it will fit on my body, but will it fit my body? That kind of difference. And so, lots of them I was looking at, like their waist, they say waist hip, like a lot of them said like 45 was the max, and that is not my size. Like my hips are like 57. And again, it's not going around your full hip. It's definitely higher up. So it is more of like a waist plus a little bit measurement, but still I was like, oh, and if I had known there were plus size backpacks, I probably just would have bought one online because I didn't want to deal with going to an outfitter and then having that moment of like, yeah, we don't have anything that works for you. Because that's a really, like, even no matter how like good you feel about yourself or how much that your body deserves the space that it takes up, and that your body can do amazing things, and that your body is valid, even if it can't do amazing things, like that your body is valid, you are valid. Like no matter how much you can build yourself up and like maintain that foundation, like that kind of stuff is just like, no matter, I'm sure there's like 0.0001% of people who would be like, yeah, cool, bye. But that's not me. I'm more of like a Pretty Woman moment where I'm like, but I just take my money, give it, like that kind of thing. I'm so old. I'm just completely like, just keep telling you all of my dating references. That's okay. You can probably find it somewhere. Oh my gosh, by the way, speaking of that, I totally had a moment. Like I watched Heartburn, which is an old Meryl Streep, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Whatever, who cares about him? Movie. And like I just had like all these like nostalgic, like I'd never even seen that movie. Like I did not need to cause nostalgia in me, but it was just like this very slow, like it was like an autobiography. It was Nora Ephron was a screenwriter, and it was like this biography. Anyway, it was like this just like very like slow and like centered nostalgia that came out of it. And so then I was like trying to like find other movies that would bring me that like comfort. And for some reason I was just, and like Private Benjamin was recommended, and like while that will not bring me that slow centered comfort nostalgia, I was like, oh, Private Benjamin, I loved that movie. And part of me is like, you shouldn't watch that movie, you'll be upset, but whatever. I was trying to find it. Do you know they want $10 to buy Private Benjamin? That movie's from like 1980, I don't know, 5, 6, 4. That movie is like almost as old as I am. They still want $10 for it. Come on. That is not fair. Anyway. Backpack. Nostalgia. I don't know how I got on that one. But anyway, so I was just like, I had this like unease about like, and like when we were in Jackson Hole last year on our fancy person vacation, it was like our only family vacation. It's not been just like to a campground. I was trying to pack super light, but my feet were driving me crazy. And I was really like, I think I have to break down and get like a pair of sandals. Like I probably, like Chacos or Tevas or something. And so there was an outfitter store in Jackson Hole. And now I know that Jackson Hole is like super me, like it's very, like this is not of my people. Like, like it's not of my people. But I definitely had that experience where I went into the outfitter and like was completely ignored. And like there could be 7,000 reasons for it, but So you just carry that with you. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, ugh, ugh, ugh. So I've heard good things about REI. I've heard good things from fat folks about REI. And I will confirm that those are real experiences. I went with the teen. The kid who measured, I say kid, he was an adult, but he was a young adult. He could have been more than 25, I don't think. Not even possible, right? He was super cute. Wasn't at all like, we're going to have to find something special for you. No, he just was like, I mean, I pushed the kid to the front because I was just like, He measured the teen, got the teen started, and he was like, okay. Or no, he didn't even, he just measured the teen, told the teen what their number was, 20. And then he was like, okay. And so then he had me like do the measurement. I put my, like, find your hips, blah, 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 blah. He measured me and he was like, all right, you need an 18 and you need a 20. And then he like went, he's like, do you know what, he asked us all the questions, like, where are you going? Or, like, what do you need from this? Like, how big of a backpack do you need? How long do you expect to be going out? We're just like 2-3 nights, not like going on the trail, the Appalachian Trail or anything. I'm like, I'm not ultralighting because Mama needs a fancy sleeping pad. No ultralighting here. Like, so he kind of like, and he's like, do you have an idea? And I was really just like, no, because everything I looked at, I thought was going to be too small. So I was just like, and when he measured me, he was like, okay, you need a small. And I was like, and I know that means like the height of your torso, but is that even possible? I'm like 5'7"-ish. And like, I have a long torso. I don't even know, whatever. So I was like, maybe he was measuring my butt and not my hips. That might make sense. Because it makes sense. Like, you wouldn't want your backpack to try to push your butt down. Like, So, like, but he was not at all, like, he just like, so do you have an idea what you want? Like, and I was like, well, those are on sale. Can we just look at those? And he was like, sure. And he was like, he just started like giving us packs and like told us how to like put them on and how to adjust them and like looked at things and no, like, good luck, fatty. I'm not going to expect that, but you know what I mean? Like, no, like, awkwardness of like, ooh, you're going to need something different. Like, nothing like that. It was just like being a normal human. Imagine that. It also gave me confidence because there was another chubby lady getting her backpack set up before me. So I felt like, I was like, oh, okay. She gave me I mean, everybody's in their own place, but I tried to give her some eye contact, like, I'll be here for you. She didn't give it back, but we're all in a different, and I am much fatter than she is. And so I know there's lots of times that people are not okay with their bodies, and so they don't want to like fist bump other fats. But if you're fat, even if you're like just a mild fat, like a tiny fat, just give a little like, hey, sister, brother, hey, sibling, just give a little, just acknowledgement. It helps. But anyway, I was there for her. Even if it wasn't returns. Totally great experience. I ended up going to a medium simply because of the hip belt length. And like the backpacks that we chose are adjustable in torso length. So the one I chose was able to go to my size even, but he wasn't automatically like, well, you need a man's pack because definitely like, I don't know if we can find a short enough man's, whatever. I just can't express to you how relieved I was that purchase happened in such a smooth way. So thanks, REI. Not sponsored by REI, hashtag. But, give me a call. If you'd like me to test your fat outdoor gear, I'm here for you, y'all. Marmot. Big Agnes. Come on, Big Agnes. You should make tons of fat people's stuff. Come on. So that was yay. I have a backpack, like a real one. Like a real thing. I have my tent. I have my sleeping pad. Oh my gosh, it's crazy, y'all. The sleeping, bag, quilt, bivy, whatever you're going to do, that one is still a little bit up in the air. I have a temporary situation going on right now because it should in all likelihood be very warm when we're camping. So I just need a little bit of something. So I do have a regular sleeping bag, like a down sleeping bag that's a lightweight down sleeping bag that I, full disclosure, got from Amazon. But I'm just going to use it as a bench, essentially like a blanket or a quilt, because it definitely will not zip around my body. Okay. Oh. The only sleeping bag seems to be the moment. Lots of fat folks use quilts because they're open. And like, if you don't know what that is, like you have a sleeping bag and you have a quilt, and basically there are like straps that kind of go around it. Because when you are sleeping in a sleeping bag, when you compress the fill, like when you're laying on it, it essentially does not provide you any warmth. I mean, just minimal warmth, because the warmth comes from the air in the fill. So ultralighters started using quilts, which is basically just a sleeping bag with the back taken out and like less zipper weight and all this stuff. And so lots of fat folks use that as well because you have a little bit more room. Like you just, you're not like zipped into something. However, the reality is that being zipped into something is also what provides a lot of warmth. And so there are places like Mountain Hard Gear that make like extra wide quilts. I know some fat folks use like a double, like sometimes they make double ones for, like for couples who are sleeping, or for just people who are sleeping two to a quilt. But there are not a lot of like backpacking weight sleeping bags for fatties. Nemo makes one that I think fits up to, I want to say 61, but that means like it fits. Like I'm thinking that means like that's the internal circumference measurement, which that is not going to be comfortable. You're going to be like a worm. Like you're just going to be like you're going to be a sausage. And like also that will decrease your warmth rating, right? Because if you're like totally taking up all of that internal space along your core, which is your most important part, like you're not going to have that space between you and the bag for insulation. And potentially like you're going to be stretched, like you're going to be making the bag taut, which is also going to decrease the amount of insulation. It's a lot to process, y'all. And there's like tons of DIYs you can do. Like, don't get me wrong. You can look up how to make your own backpacking quilt, sleeping bag, whatever. Companies like Ripstop by the Roll sell all of the like kind of similar fabrics that you would buy. They sell like the hydrophobic down that you can use that like is most commonly used in like high quality sleeping bags. But like sometimes you don't want to have to like make your own sleeping bag. Actually, mostly you just don't want to have to like figure out how to put down in a sleeping bag because apparently it's a big challenge. So fun. But so I think I'm just going to use this one, and either like it's going to be super warm. So I think I'm just going to use it as like a blanket essentially because I'll have a base layer on. I'll be fine. But also like Big Agnes has started using this sleep system. Oh my gosh. I could really talk about backpacking gear like ad nauseum, and I've never been backpacking. There are timestamps. Do not hesitate to use them. There will not be a quiz. Okay? Okay. So like they have this sleeping, like a 3-in-1 sleeping system that involves like a cover essentially that goes around your sleeping pad, and it has, they call a quilt on the top, and then like a sleeping bag that you can put in the middle. So like if it's not cold, you can just use the quilt. But the cool thing about the quilt is that because it's designed to essentially zip onto this sleeping pad cover, it means you basically have like the sleeping, like you can zip it closed. So you don't have to like worry about like, but you can also zip it open. Like if you want to have your leg out, if it's too warm or what have you. So I'm going to use, my theory is that I will use the sleeping bag I purchased to kind of make something like that, like to make a cover for my sleeping pad that will zip onto, so that in colder weather, which I would love to do cold weather camping because I love the cold. Can I discuss that I have definitely already looked up hip camps for Rhinebeck? I'm not going to Rhinebeck this year. But I mean, if I could camp in somebody's yard for like $16. No, we can't do that. That's crazy. Can we all cycle to Rhinebeck? Like, let's not all drive. Let's just all ride a bike. That way there won't be so much traffic. Do you think that people would just like open their doors if you cycled on the berm? Just to like bypass all the cars. I do actually really wonder, has anybody cycled? I mean, it seems like something that people would do, but also like, I don't know if it's legal. I don't know what, I've never looked up the cycling laws in New York City. In New York State, excuse me. I don't even know the law here in terms of like, but you can cycle on the berm here because like you must, or you will probably get killed. But I can just imagine myself like my little fat self like cycling and being like, oh, I'm going to Rhinebeck. And then like somebody just being like, what is that bitch doing? She is cutting the line. And then just like opening their car doors, I like ran. But maybe if there were a herd of us, they couldn't do it. They just take out one of us by one. Wouldn't that be fun? I'm just saying. And then we could be like, I can only take one fleece home because I've got to pedal it. Like I can only carry it. I got to carry my fleece instead of like shoving it into a car in the parking lot. Just saying, y'all, the hip camp place I looked up is an actual campground and there's like 5 or 6 campsites. I'm just saying. Anyway, so the thought is that like hopefully this sleeping bag will not be wasted. That's the hard thing about like when you're starting this stuff is like anything, right? Like fiber gear and stuff like that. Like when you're starting your fiber stuff, like when you're starting your spinning wheel, you're like, oh, do I buy this like wheel made of PVC to see if I like it? But I'm like, if I do like it, then I'm instantly going to want something better. And then like I've got a PVC wheel, like, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know how to sell that or like what kind of cut am I going to take? And while the resale market for fiber stuff is pretty strong, I don't know how good it is for like randomly used backpacking stuff. Especially like if it's not like if it's not like a high end, brand name and things like that. So like, I don't know how much market there is for that like beginner level backpacking stuff. So it's been kind of a like seesaw, like a toss up between like, oh, I'm trying to only get stuff that will definitely I'll definitely use longer term, but also not, like there are backpacking tents that are like a commonly used backpacking tent is $600. Like that's not even like the fanciest backpacking tent. So it's like, oh, finding that like middle ground of not wanting to carry a 20-pound Coleman tent, which we do have for car camping. But like also, it's like, oh, it's the tension of like, but so that's been like my brain. Okay, I should also just interject here. You don't need any equipment that's fancy to go backpacking at all. Like, I mean, you need like some things. You need like some way to keep warm, some way to carry your stuff, some way to treat your water. That's some way to stay dry. That's basically all you need. So this is really like this gear thing is just like for my own like personal puzzle solving mind. And also like knowing that I do not have the physical capability to carry like 65 pounds and a big pack. So this is like just, this is definitely a you do you situation. So I just want to put that in here. Like you don't need any of this stuff to go backpacking at all. Like you need those basic things, but you don't need fancy basic things. This is more just me realizing that my physical fitness level and my teens pain tolerance, discomfort tolerance thresholds. Like that's what this is. So I just felt like, oh, I got to put that in there. So that went really well, but there was something else I was going to talk about. The other thing. Okay. Timestamp, Beth, insert here. The other, I'm just going to stop it so that like I don't have to listen to myself, because like, why would I? I already listened to myself so much just talking to you about all that. Um, okay, but this was a really big thing that I was super excited about, and I almost posted like a very sweaty, red-faced YouTube video, which I might still do, I don't know. But I was so excited I have to tell you about it. So this is for anybody who has tried to do aerobic videos but couldn't. Okay, so like whatever that reason is, like you're just uncoordinated, like not whatever reason that is, because there are some reasons that you can't do them that this will not fix. But for me, it was like, am I uncoordinated? Is it because my physical fitness isn't high enough? Is it because I don't know how to dance? Is it like whatever the thing is? Like, does my brain take too long to process instructions? I don't know. But I had this epiphany because I've been trying to think of something else. Like I love cycling, but like nobody in my family really wants to cycle like 30 miles. So I need to pluck up my like independent cycling beast and just go do it. But I haven't yet. But I do Peloton, which I do love. I don't have the fancy Peloton bike, but I do have a bike that tells me all the information that a Peloton bike tells you. Like it tells me my resistance and my speed and my it measures like my output power, so I can follow along with power zone classes. And like I love Christine. Like I think the first workout I did with that I watched for her workout was like it had both the Indigo Girls and Tori Amos, and I was just like, oh, man. So I do, and I'll do a video about that, like my Peloton that's not a Peloton. Also, not sponsored by Peloton. But I love that. But like, I need some more like actual like weight bearing exercises, right? Like I have a lot of body mass and I would like to use that to my betterment. Like, like moving it around is actually additional like resistance and things like that. And yes, like when I'm cycling my body on the outside world, I'm definitely, but like when I'm cycling down and like, but still, I am still sitting, like I'm not doing as much upper body work and stuff. It's not as much balance and things. And while I'm cycling on the stationary bike, like even less so, right? Like you're setting your resistances and things like that. And so, yes, I am moving the weight of my legs up and down, but I'm not like getting all of the benefit of this other weight that I'm moving. So I've been trying to like, but it's also like hecka hot outside. And I gotta be honest with you, while I like hiking a lot, I don't like just walking. I like walking to things. Like I walked to get my hair cut, and that's very enjoyable. I like to walk to go to the library. Actually, I really prefer to ride my bike to the library, but you know what I mean. But you know what I mean? Like I like to walk when there is like a goal. But like the like amorphic goal of like, this will make your brain feel better and your body feel better is not enough to inspire me to walk. Just gonna be honest with you. Okay. So, and also it's like 95 to 106 degrees outside, heat index wise. Like, so that's another deterrent. So I was trying to find something I could do in the house. Well, I have done like the walking videos, but I also just don't love those because they're just kind of like, I don't know. I just don't love them. And so I was like, I wonder if I could do step aerobics with weights. Like that would be so great. And so I tried to do a step aerobics video and I was just like, within like the warm up, I was like, I can't do this. Like I can't figure out I would have to stop like every 5 seconds to get like reorganized with where my foot was supposed to be. And like I didn't even get into like a grapevine or anything. And this is historically true for me. Like when I was younger, like even in my 20s, my roommate and I, it was when Tybo was big. Do you remember when Tybo was big? Billy Blanks. I can't remember. I secretly got Tybo Gold, which was supposed to be like for the older generation. And I did not tell her. She was just impressed with like the diversity of people participating in class. That one I could do. But like, forget it. Richard Simmons? No. I cannot sweat to your oldies. I can't. I get like discombobulated and then I get discouraged and I give up. So I had this epiphany the other day. I was like, shit. I was like 3 a.m. I don't know what it was. It was like some dumb thing. It's like a dumb time to have an epiphany about like step aerobics. And like, maybe you all know this. And like, it was just such common knowledge that you were like, yeah, we didn't think to mention that to you. But just in case you're on the planet with me, hello. YouTube, you can slow things down. So just like my brain needs the audiobooks sped up, my body needs the step aerobics slowed down. So I watched, I'll link it, I think. Yeah, I'll link it. I watched this step aerobics instructor, and I thought the weights were going to be incorporated, but they were actually different sets. We'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, it was like she's like in Montana. There's like mountains behind her. It's outside. I was like, oh, this feels nice. Like it doesn't feel like sterile and creepy. And then I put on 75 speed. Perfect. Like that was the first YouTube knockdown I had. I don't know if it changes by who you are, but like that was my first knockdown was 0.75, and I thought she's going to be like, and step. No, she literally sounded like a normal human being. I think secretly that just like they take the audio, I think that they take the audio from audiobooks and slow it down a little bit to put it onto like the general. Do you know what I mean? Like, because nobody talks that slow. I secretly think that this aerobics thing is all sped up a little bit. Like they're just like, we're recording, then we'll just play it back at 1.1. Because when I slowed it down, the music was fine. I mean, it was a little bit like I just have done it with this one video because I'm still learning this whole video. There are like 5 combinations, people. Like the 5 different things. That's a lot to learn. But it worked fine. The music was fine. She was fine. I was fine. It was amazing. I enjoyed it so much. And it was actually just like a more realistic pace for me. Just like when I do Peloton, like I am not 120 RPMs gal. Like this body is not a 120 RPMs body. That's why I like the Power Zone classes. You have an output that you're aiming for. And that's why I like Christine, because she's like, I'm doing 90, but you don't need to do that. You do you, is essentially what she's saying. And so like that's what this was for me too. It's like I have a strong body, but not a fast body. And also my brain has trouble with the directions. So this worked out so well. There were still a few times, I'm not going to lie, that the L step, she got real fancy at the end, was like asking for like cowboys, rocking horses, something like, there was a rocking horse definitely, but I feel like there was also a cowboy involved. I don't know. It was like, yeehaw. That, you know, I'm not saying that I was just instantly like, bam, I'm on it. Like they were still learning. I'm still not learned. But it totally worked. And I was super afraid that I was like, when she started to do the weight breakout, I was like, oh no, this is going to be terrible with this being slow. It was really still quite good. And in fact, I think more challenging because it really prevented that like throwing the weight phenomenon that I sometimes find myself doing when I'm doing weights and stuff. Because you're doing you were moving it, you had to be very intentional about your movement. And like it was, I think, more of a challenge for me to do the weights at the slower speed. I'm just saying, if you've had trouble. And like some people's goals might be to learn the steps and then speed it up to normal. I'm like, I actually just really dig this speed. I feel like this is a speed that is like the speed that my body wants to function. Like if I'm hiking, I'm not hiking at 120 RPMs, but whatever that is in stepping. You know what I mean? Just saying. So I'm very excited. So I hope it helps you. If it helps you, I want to know about it. I would also love to know, okay, so this is something that would be super helpful. In the comments, if you are interested in this topic, I would like to do like a separate video. So again, it's searchable, but like, what would you be like looking, if you wanted this information, how would you be searching for it? Like, cause it's not just fat people aerobics. Like it is just like, sometimes Siri just talks to me. So I don't know like what tag, I mean, obviously fat, plus size, uncoordinated, slow moving. I don't know. trouble with her. Anyway, like, what would you be like looking for if you were looking for that information? And then what else? Oh, and then if you actually do this, I would love to know if it worked for you. And if it did work for you, I would love to know what video you watched and if you liked it or not. So yeah, that would be super great. Thanks. I appreciate it. Okay, I think that's all. Okay, now for the like 4 minutes of the podcast, I'll talk about wool. I've been doing a lot of research. Look, right here. Back gourmet. Don't worry. We're not going to cook. I don't think I'm going to cook this time. I mean, I'm really trying not to cook this time. Like, I'm just going to take those freeze-dried meals and a bunch of fig Newtons. Our fig Newtons are like my fig Newtons and combos. Pretzels, cheese combos. Fig Newtons for Grandpa. Pretzel cheese combos for Mima. And they are still like, those are like the perfect camping, road trip, whatever they are, snacks. Those are perfect. They don't get smushed. They don't get broken up. You get a salty and you get a sweet. Okay. I am not doing tour de fleece, but I did do some actual spinning. I purchased this fiber from Fat Cat Knits. It is called Katydid, and this is her Falkland. I ended up spinning about 503 yards. This is 8 ounces. I love it. Oh, I have to stop because the battery needs charging because I've just talked too much about backpacking stuff. So I am almost positive that Fat Cat Knits is also the dyer who did a somewhat similar colorway, the Luna Moth colorway that I loved, that I made a shawl of several years ago. So I don't know, I am just a sucker. If you give me some greens and like you put some teal in there and you get, oh, I am in, all in. Footnote, I think this is Fat Cat Knits dyer, but I'm not 100% sure. But this was a spinach souffle colorway, which I loved. And I used it, this is the Stripe Study shawl. Oh no, it's got a little, this is the Stripe Study. And I used it in conjunction with Swan's Island, their Rambouillet Sport in this ochre colorway. And I just, so squishy, scrummy, good. So yeah. So this is fiber that I recently purchased, even though I have a lot of fiber. But I am still very pleased with it. Like, it's just fluffy and lovely. Falkland is not a breed of sheep. It is an island. So usually they are like, I think it's Merino, Polworth. I don't know. It's like that, but it's actually just the island. And it used to be primarily like exciting because they didn't have the natural pests on the islands that they did other places. So they didn't have to do as much pest management with their flocks. So if you wanted something that was essentially like an organic or something like that before that was a branded option, the Falkland wool was a good resource for that. But yeah. So are you doing Tour de Fleece? Oh, I've never done Tour de Fleece because I'm always, well, not always, but I'm mostly getting ready for SSK. But I cannot use that excuse for the last 2 years, so apparently I'm just not doing Tour de Fleece. But I love seeing other people's. Oh, it's so exciting. It's just fun to be kind of doing the same thing at the same time. You know what I mean? Speaking of which, we're definitely going to do a backpacking retreat. Not a retreat. We're going to, because I feel like that is legal something. You can't sue me. We're just going to, like, I'll tell you I'm going to be backpacking somewhere. And then you'll be like, oh my gosh, what a coincidence. I thought I'd backpack there too. And be like, oh, look at that. Or like, you know, something. I don't know. For legal reasons. Don't sue me. I don't have anything. So that's my spinning, and it's very enjoyable. I spun that on my Hanson mini spinner, which I still really love. I I have thought about upgrading to the Pro, but I'm just not spending enough to make that cost reasonable at this point. I spin short backwards, sort of like I spin somewhere between. I spin in a long draw fashion in terms of like how I draft my fiber. Usually my stuff is pretty poofy because I don't put a lot of twist in my singles just because of doing the like kind of long draw-ish technique. And I say ish because a lot of people think long draw has to only be that like where you're not even touching the fiber with this hand and you're just drafting with this hand. But I do, support. So a supported long draw is probably the best name for what I do. And I generally I love when I see other people's worsted spun yarns. I love them. They're so pretty and so round and so symmetrical, and so consistent. But that is just not my default spinning. And I have not taken the time to really work with it. It gives me a lot of hand fatigue. I don't know if that's because I use my hands so much in sewing, which I know doesn't sound like you would, but there's lots of pinching and holding and twisting, and so I don't know if it's because I use my hands so much for sewing that I just haven't built up that additional strength to do worsted. Anyway, it just fatigues my hands and I don't find it pleasant, and I don't spin enough to do it when it doesn't feel pleasant. Do you know what I mean? I have to really enjoy my spinning to do it. So yeah. Speaking of spinning, oh my gosh, here's some old spinning that I'm going to make into something. So this is some fiber from Spun Right Round. It was 2 packs of just bits and bobs. So just leftovers from other dye batches. This fiber is very old and this hand spun is pretty old. So, but isn't it, I'll just show it to you because it's very fun. I'll tilt it for the light. I love Spun Right Round's color sense. It's so awesome. And I love when you have a dyer that's been dyeing for a long time that you've been following and you kind of see just the different neighborhoods they visit, in their favorites and things like that. And Spun Right Round does primarily do yarn. And I know for a while she was not doing fiber, but I think she occasionally does it again. I don't know. But yeah, with Andrea Mowry Spun Right Round, come on. More kids are going to want to spin. Get some fiber going. Not at all selfish that I want that to happen. So these are not my typical, I would never pick clothing this colors, but it is so fun. And what I'm doing is I'm doing another foolproof, which is a cowl that you start basically by doing a shawl triangle and then you extend it and put 2 together and it's a whole thing. It's a great pattern for hand spun because you can do it in any gauge. You don't need a ton. So even though I have, I think 8 ounces here or 250 grams or something, it is a thicker weight. And so I want to use as much of it as I can, but it's definitely not enough to do a shawl with. So, and quite frankly, Hello Yarn did several of these foolproofs in her hand spun, and they're gorgeous. And that's what inspired me to start doing one originally a few years ago. And I have my special stitch marker from Swiftly Tilting Planet. Anyway, I started it thinking I would do a granny square one, and I think crocheted through the green and I just was not loving it. So I started just doing a regular knitted one and I do really love it. So it's rainbowy, but accidentally. So this is the width of my cowl, or the depth of it, I guess, the depth of it. And now I'm starting on one side. So yeah, I'm knitting this on the biggest needles ever, a 10.5 or 10. I was originally going to knit it on sock needles because I was because you're just knitting. Again, you're just knitting this many stitches. So I don't have sock needles in those sizes. I was oh, well, all right. So I'll just keep my stitches that I'm not working on here as well. So And then the next thing I have to show you is that I am knitting another Recalibrate top, which is a pattern. And by the way, I apologize. I did not do a very good talk about my Recalibrate top last time. I'm not sure why. Like the vibe was just weird for me that time apparently. So I will come back to it. I need to take some like good photos of it and then and talk to you maybe a little bit more about it. Maybe when I finish this one, I'll just kind of like show you again because I don't even think I mentioned like what yarns I used. And while I did use a hand spun, which is kind of like, you're like, yeah, thanks. It doesn't do anything for me. I did use some commercial yarns. So, Recalibrate top, Shayna lines. Okay. And then these are the yarns I'm using. So this is some Wollmeise twin, I think. I have no idea what this is. This was gifted to me, so thank you. I held on to it forever because I just could not decide what to do with it. It's sort of like I think it's the color we call tobacco, and that is like what color tobacco leaves are, the dried, like in the warehouses, in the barns. And then I have this yarn, which again, I apologize, I don't know what it is anymore. It is an indie, but I don't know. Anyway, I had originally put these into a crocheted shawl, and I loved the way it looked, but I just didn't love working on it. So I decided to rip that out, and so now I'm doing this, and I have this, which is, I think, Wicked from Madeline Tosh, that I plan on doing like the side panels and the sleeve cuff with. And I also have some other color that I don't know, we'll see how this one, if I need this one or not. Might do like the hem or something. So this pattern is completely, like you can do whatever you want in terms of colors. You know, this is the center panel. I really would have preferred to use this dark purple, but I'm just afraid I didn't have enough. So I just used the Wollmeise because this Wollmeise was like 150 gram skein. So I'm knitting mine on US 1.5. My gauge is a little bit tighter than the suggested pattern, but it's still pretty, you know, pretty drapey, not at all rigid, still sort of translucent, not transparent. But you know, you can do these, you know, you could do this as a solid, you could do it as 900 colors. In fact, I was thinking I bought that gradient set from Kimber at Fiber Optic Yarns. I've been thinking that maybe I should make one with that. I don't know. I've been hoarding it like a little dragon lady. But I have one set that's like super minis. Like they're like, I don't know, are they like 5 or 10 grams? They're very skinnies. I have one and it's a completely circular color transformation. So I could use that. You know, you could even use that, like, because I was thinking I'd have to split each one to do like stripes out, but you could also, since it's circular, you could actually just start and then like, interesting. Like it would kind of like in your brain would go from shoulder back to shoulder. That's interesting. I mean, it really wouldn't because your break would happen here and then it would pick up again on the other. So yeah, no, that would work because then, hello, you just, yeah, that's how you would just plan it because there's all those minis. You would just plan it from going like A, like if your sequence runs like A to F, like A to G or whatever, you could, you know, you have your middle. You could have your middle and you could do like, I don't know, E, F, G here, but then you could go D, C, B, A over here. So it would kind of go from left to right. Although would that be a lot of look for me? I don't know. I can't decide. I'm a lot of person. I don't know if I can handle a lot of look. I say as the person who has like cut off sleeveless t-shirts. Like, I am a lot of look, y'all. But anyway, so yeah, I'm excited about it. I don't think I'll get it done in time for SSK. Womp womp. But this is a great pattern to work on if you're at a retreat or if you're doing like, you know, knitting with friends or knitting in a group or knitting in a movie or whatever. Well, not maybe a movie. Yeah, a movie. maybe not a movie, like in a theater, because it is really mindless. Like it's just like a simple shawl. Like you're just knitting rectangles, and it's garter and so exciting. It's so satisfying. Now I'm just going to be whirling my thoughts about that stupid gradient set. I want to just stab myself in the boob. So yeah, I'm excited. I think this will look super cute with one of my like pocket skirts, my peppermint pocket skirts. I think it would be really cute if I had like a dark purple one. Wouldn't that be super sweet? I don't have a dark purple one. They only take like 10 minutes to make, right? They take more than 10 minutes. But yeah, I think it would be really pretty with like a dark purple. But you know, who knows? We'll see. I think I had another thought the other night about it and I can't remember what it was now. I think I had like a more novel color thought, but now I can't remember what it was. But like, yeah, it would look pretty even with like that. Would that be nice? I don't have more of this. But I know where to get it. But not before SSK. So, okay. So, that is probably enough of me. Slow step aerobics. Slow down. Yeah, all those so good. Okay. I hope if you're in the northern hemisphere, it's not too crazy hot where you are. It's really crazy hot though. Although this morning when I went out to cut the flowers for you, it was deliciously breezy, so I was very thankful for that. But yeah, shop update. If you're at SSK, I will be there. If you're going to come to the market, I would love it if you said hello and visited a little bit. It tends to get like, if you're coming in for the market, it tends to be kind of like frenetic, like for that first hour-ish, but then it dies way down. So if you've got people you want to visit with, like vendors and stuff, I mean, obviously if you have humans you visit with, you can just visit away. But if you got vendors you want to visit with, that's a great time as it winds down a little bit. So yeah, that's coming up. Wool gathering September, but who knows between now and then what's gonna happen? Maybe backpacking. All right. Thank you so much for visiting with me. Thank you so much for your comments. They are always so, 99% of the time, they are so awesome. Don't be that 1%, y'all. I will talk to you next time. Bye.